News of the day. Visakhapatnam welcomes the first mothership. Now you should also know where this particular port is. What is the importance of an international port? Now, if you see around, I think if I'm not wrong, around 90% of the world trade actually happens through sea routes, and therefore having a deep water transshipment port is very important. Now, what you should understand, what is a transshipment post? Basically, these are these merchant navy ships which carry huge cargoes, and they move from they move, so they can't, so suppose a ship is starting from, say, China. It cannot directly move to US. It needs some ports in between where it might need any needs, or it might be pick up some other this thing as well, containers as well, and drop some containers as well. So what we need is a transshipment shipment post port. And countries around us have made very important transshipment ports. For example, if you see why Singapore is so important, is because it lies in one of the biggest trade channels in the world, and there is this strait called as Malacca Straits. You should be aware about that. So that is why that particular region is important. So, and China does have these transshipment ports. Colombo is a transshipment port, and therefore we are also building. We have also built one. Read about what are these and why are they important in the global trade. Then apart from that, you can also read this particular news citing Naxalism in urban areas. Maharashtra government tables bills, which basically talks about a 3-year jail term if a person is found to be in an unlawful organization, and if he is basically contributing or receives or solicits any kind of this thing, then 2-year jail term. If the promoter, if the person is basically promoting some messages or assistant or in their management, in 3 years. So basically you have now got into the sphere of the urban areas with respect to Naxalism. Then the the other news, which is very very important, focus likely on jobs, rural economy, and manufacturing, is something again you can read. But what is key here is 3 years, the 3 shocked 16.4 lakh jobs lost in informal sector over 7 years. Now this is one data point that I want you to remember. So for people with economics, even non-economics folks can remember this data. Please take a note of this data. This is unincorporated enterprise survey. Now this is not done every year. It has been done after a number of years. Now what is there is that this, first of all, you should know that this annual survey of unincorporated enterprises, so basically these are small enterprises. These are you can think of them as mom and pop stores, and of them there were around 6.34 crore of them in 2015-16. The number increased to 6.5 crores recently. But what is more concerning is that the employment that is there, they had employed 11.13 crore people in 2015-16, and in 2022-23 there are only 10.96 crores. So that means there has been a fall in employment in the unincorporated enterprises. Now what this article basically suggests is that the fall in unincorporated enterprises is majorly because of three exogenous shocks. First was the demonetization of November 2016. The other was the rollout of GST tax in July 2017, and then the COVID pandemic of March 2020. These are the three shocks because of which the employment has gone down in this particular sector. But then it talks about uh, each particular state, but we are not concerned with each particular state. We are, so this you can read it if you want to, but what are we concerned with is the GVA levels. This is very important. If you see the real GVA of the unorganized, or if you see the real GVA of this particular sector, it was around 7.4% between 2010 and 2015, and the CAGR contracted by 0.2% between 15 and 20 to 23. This is something that you should be aware about, and you should have it in your as a data point in your pocket, because this is something that we already have. Then apart from that, the numbers, overall numbers do match, because we now know there's another data set called as Clem's data set by the Reserve Bank of India, and this data set also broadly matches that we have around 8.9 to 9 crore people working in the industry and services. And this is something that we've been matching. But again, this is again a data point that you should have, that 44% of the country's unorganized sector contributes 44% of your GVA, and it employs 75% of your workforce in the non-agriculture enterprises. So that is why you can't just focus on, when you see the news, what you will see majorly news of formal industries, and formal industries basically talking about a number of things. But this is more important, because this is where 75% of your workforce lies, and 44% of your GVA is coming from this particular sector. So this is something that you should take a note of. Then budget, again you can read the budget thing. There's not much data to support it. India, Australia to agree to build sustainable economic and technological partnership. So maybe you can read this, but anyways, in the explained section we are going to develop a full-fledged article on India and this thing, Australia relationship. Something interesting, Center forms one member panel to probe Pune IS officer row. You can read about this particular issue as well, just for fun. Not to fake your OBC certificates. If you have one, it will land up, you will land up into trouble. So, and putting government stickers and government lights on your own Audi is also something which is a violation of the law. Now, there are two articles that we are going to read on the Muslim women issue. Now, we already know about this particular issue. Now, this issue we have discussed it yesterday, but we are going to discuss it again today. But again, you can take up certain pointers here and then use it in your ethics essay as well. Certain statements that you can pick up from this particular article. Now, there was this judgment that is given day before yesterday by Nagarthna, Justice B.V. Nagarthna. Now, we already know about the case that there was a ruling in 1985 in which the Supreme Court had said that even Muslim women are liable to be paid your maintenance even after ibadat. Now, because of pressure from the clergy and to basically canvass and to basically assuage the Muslim community, Rajiv Gandhi, and basically he actually laid the seeds for communal politics in India, and all of that. If you see the Shah, if I trace the history, the Babri Masjid, the tracing to the Babri Masjid issue, the seeds of that entire issue of gender as a voting constituency actually started with this particular act. So basically what Rajiv Gandhi government did in 1986 was that they took away that particular right. They said that the CRPC, basically the CRPC is a penal provision. So if you see the criminal procedure code, this is not a civil procedure code, it's a criminal procedure code. So the criminal procedure code says, section 125 says that anyone is required to pay maintenance to his wife or former wife who is unable to maintain herself. So it's a penal provision. Now, what the Rajiv Gandhi government did was that it said that no, this will not apply. This general penal provision will not apply to a religious sect. So basically, creating an artificial identity and an artificial distinction, and it will override article the section to 125. Now, since this particular case, and also in the Daniel Latifi ruling. Now, Daniel Latifi, by the way, was the person who had filed the case, Now, with that, the Supreme Court had maintained that Muslim man's limited obligation cannot override the Section 125. Now, the traditional this thing that was being argued was that only till the months of ibadat, which is the 3 lunar months, for 3 months the person will be paying, and then he will not be paying. But now, what the justice has said, the court has said, is that the court will not be continuance of unjust or Faustian bargains being imposed on women. Now, this is a very very important line that you can pick up for your rights of women as well. And it says that maintenance is a facet is a facet of gender parity and enabler of equality and not charity. So this should not be seen as a charity, but a but of that of equality. And a destitute woman has the right to seek maintenance under this thing, despite the amendments or despite the enactment of the 1986 Act. So basically, it puts this particular the general provision of CRPC above any act that has been made by the parliament. And this particular article also talks about the same thing, and it also talks about the reservations that might have within the Muslim community, that there is a lot of celebration in the Muslim community in parts after the triple talaq judgment of 2017, and also because of this. But what we need to see is that most religions, as we say, even in Hinduism, is guided by a clergy or a group of men who want to maintain the status quo, who want to maintain a higher, on to be a higher pedestal than women. So all of this is being talked about here, and it's also about the patriarchal interpretation that has been given to marriage, divorce, maintenance, polygamy, halala, custody. All of this. The Indian Muslims are governed by the Shariat Application Act 1937, and the act itself is archaic, and it is being interpreted and being implemented in an archaic manner by the clergy. So this is something that you can read. I've taught you in combination of these two. Then a timely warning, a blood test that has been developed by AIMS. It's a 9 marker blood test, where 6 marker blood test. So basically what they have done is they have tested people through blood reports. And Alzheimer's, typically what happens is that once the discovery is there, we kind of shrug it off. We don't really know that a person is prone to Alzheimer's or not. We generally say that this person is aging, and that's why this person is forgetting. So we kind of ignore the Alzheimer's management in the early years when it can be managed. And until unless these symptoms become absolutely full blown on, we do not consider them as Alzheimer's. Just a second. Yeah, we do not consider them as Alzheimer's, but we can treat them. And therefore this particular test is now being done, these biomarkers, which basically shows that if a person is pre-Alzheimer's or is being prone to Alzheimer's, or the Alzheimer's is setting in, because it also takes around 15 to 20 years for it to develop. So this is a major breakthrough that we have done in the healthcare sector. And why is it important? Because we have a huge population of elderly, which is going to increase. Around 8% of our population right now is above 60, and this population is only going to increase in the coming few years, and therefore the burden that we are going to have to treat people is also going to be much. Therefore we need a strategy for this. So this is something, maybe you can read Barcelona Misfire, what Barcelona has recently done, and something that you can put if you're writing this year's mains. Something that you can put is also an example of how not to how to deal with issues. Now, any particular city which receives a lot of tourists, there's going to be nuisance. Of course, there's going to be nuisance if you're living in Goa. Suppose I'm living in my society, and I keep finding people and drunks downstairs. It's a problem for me, but I have to also realize the fact that they are also the source of the revenue of my particular town. Now, what some people of Barcelona have done is they've come up with this squirt guns, that small water guns ones that we use in Holi, and they've started spraying it on people. Now, instead of directing their anger at the administration, they can increase the taxes, increase tourism taxes. They can have better policing. But instead of doing that, targeting the tourists is not a good way to handle things. So this can be also an example, a negative example of sorts for your ethics or your essay. Then one of the best examples that you can use for your ethics also is Rahul Dravid. Now, I don't want you to read the entire article. If you are a cricket fan, maybe you can, but in terms of parity, what Rahul Dravid has recently done is that every other coach was getting 2.5 crore rupees, and he has also said that I don't want this 5 crore rupees, even I will take 2.5 crore rupees. And it also talks about the kind of this thing, hierarchical structure that used to be there before Dravid was there, and how Dravid made the entire dressing room much more egalitarian and much more well distributed. So this is something that you can learn, and maybe some things that you can learn in terms of humility. I find it really tough that how he maintains this humility, but some people are wired in a very different way. So you can read about this, and I really like the last line. So maybe you can read that as well. Now, two three articles. The first important article for you is Note to Krishi Bhavan. Now, I've been reading newspapers for like 10, 15, maybe 20 years now. 15 years for sure, yes. So, some articles really hit you hard. This is one of the best articles that you can keep with yourself for agriculture, because it tells about agriculture in a way that an ordinary person cannot identify. And I'm going to find out who this person is, and other some other his writings, if he have written something else as well. So because with the clarity with which he has written this particular article is astounding. Now, this article basically starts with the fact that yes, Krishi Bhavan is going through something called as a policy paralysis. Nothing is happening after the three farm laws were withdrawn. There's actually nothing that has happened, and we do not have an agriculture policy for decades. So there is something that we need to have. We need to have a strategic. We need to have an policy which is on the lines of strategic autonomy rather than self-sufficiency. Self-sufficiency as the goal was achieved in 1970s. Now we need to have strategic autonomy. But what is more important in this article, and I want you to keep a printout, and maybe you can answer this in your interview as well, because the way that this is written is excellent. Now, one of the major problems in agriculture is that the central government is restricted because agriculture and land are both state subjects. Now, even if I want to do reform in the agriculture sector, but because if a particular state will not agree to it, that reform will not translate. The same thing happened with the agrarian laws, because it was something which the government wanted, but the states had to implement it. So this is one issue. Animal husbandry and fisheries, where the real growth is, are separate ministries. So coordination with these ministries is very important. It's not under agriculture. Then the third thing is that the budgetary allocations are by Ministry of Finance. So funds come from Ministry of Finance, and the inflation policy is dictated by RBI. So you see that within the stakeholders, for the stakeholders of agriculture, the coordination happens in multiple ways, and not every time the conversion will be there in terms of the rights, and in terms of the betterment of the agricultural department or the ministry. So because there are too many people involved, and we've not had any particular drought. That is something that is good, but the big challenge is to change the government and RBI's to change its methodology. Now, this is something that we had talked about earlier as well. Now, you guys know what is the inflation number right now? Come on, guys, let me see if you are up. What is the recent inflation number? We've done this 2-3 times now. What is the recent inflation number? So this is around 4.7%. Now, any idea about food inflation? We have done this 2-3 times now. Food inflation 18. Nope, it's around 8%. Food inflation is around 8%. Guys, come on, we should be reading newspapers. I am done with that. This is happening for you now. If you see the yes, it's around 8%. Now the problem is, see, I told you this issue, that the RBI, what does the RBI see? The RBI sees the overall inflation. The overall inflation right now is basically under control, but the food inflation is not under control. And because the food inflation, 40% of our basket of inflation is basically coming from food inflation. Now, whenever what happens is, whenever the prices are high, what does the government do? Government says, the RBI says to the government, that please reduce the prices of agricultural products. Now let us see this through an example. Now, if there is a 15, suppose because of demand and supply, if there is an increase in the price of onions, now 15 rupees a kg, 15 kgs of onion per month, and the spike is 20 rupees. So basically the family this thing increases by 300 rupees, the expenditure. But what happens is, because of the pressure that the government is under to cut down on the food inflation, what it does, it reduces, it says that the farmer will not be able to sell the price more than a particular quantity. So it cannot sell, say, more than 20 rupees per kg. It sets the farm gate prices. So this is how the finance ministry and then the government basically restricts the agriculture. They say that the farm gate prices of onions cannot be more than 20 rupees a kg. And if you have 100 quintals with you per acre, so that means you are going to make a loss of, if you are not able to increase your prices, that means you are going to make a loss of 2 lakh rupees per acre. And if you have two acres, that means you are going to make a 4 lakh rupee loss. Is this example clear? If the government is not allowing me to charge extra, the amount of onions that I have, suppose I have 100 quintal of onions with me, and if I am not allowed to charge higher because of the government diktat, because the government is forced, because the inflation is high, then as a farmer I am going to earn a loss of 2 lakh rupees per acre, and if I have 2 acres, I am getting a loss of 4 lakh rupees. Is this point clear? So basically, the idea why I wanted to deal with this is, I wanted you to show that there is a consumer bias in India's inflation policy and agricultural policy. See, Ishika, what I'm saying is that if what you have here is, if there is high inflation in food commodities, and food commodities is basically giving 40% weightage to our CPI. Now the government is under pressure to reduce the food inflation. If the government is under pressure to reduce the food inflation, what will it do? Suppose there is a family of 4 people which consumes 15 kgs of onion per month, and the price of the onion increases by 20 rupees. So 15 into 20 will be the increase in prices that will happen for that family. 300 rupees per month will be the increase of expenditure. Now, if through stock holding and through export restriction, the farm gate prices of rupees 20 per kg is restricted, basically saying, instead the government says you cannot increase this 20 rupees price. If the government is not increases 20 rupees price, the consumer gains this 300 rupees. But what is the loss to the farmer? The loss to the farmer is 20 kg into the quintal that he is producing. Suppose he is producing 100 quintals. So 20 kgs into 100 is 2000, and each quintal is basically 100 kg. So that will basically 20 into 100 basically 2 lakh rupees is the loss per acre that the farmer is going to have. And if he has 2 acres, that means the loss that he is going to have is 4 lakh rupees. Now see the bias that has been created in Indian agriculture, which is very important for you to understand. So the farmer, it is not the responsibility of the farmer to provide cheap food, nor is it justified for the RBI to sacrifice the farmers at the altar of inflation targeting. क्योंकि RBI को क्या है, RBI just wants inflation to be there at 4%. It doesn't see what is happening at the farm gate level, and that is something that we need to see. So we can have better methods in terms of direct benefit transfer. So for consumers which are not able to afford, just directly pay them this 300 rupees, but at least do not change the entire mechanism for the farmers. So these are certain things that needs to be done. And I really like this line that policymakers balk at documenting policy failures and fight back against changes to improve regulation and stuff. Now you need to understand that policymakers should pay heed to the lessons learned from the farm, that there are no perfect solutions. And this is a line that I want you to use for your ethics essay, especially in your essay while ending it, that at times, whether it's international relation, whether it's internal security, there are no perfect solutions. There never were any. For a ministry, the big question is what level of imperfection the union ministry is willing to settle for, and then you can use it for your life as well. There is nothing called as a perfect prep. What is the level of imperfect prep that you are willing to settle for is something that you need to think about. So take a note of this line and put it in your register for your this thing quotations. So then again, this particular article, Manish Tiwari is a very good writer and a very good lawyer, by the way, as well. I know his daughter indirectly, who's also a lawyer. So what this particular article says, it's basically a riposte to an article written by the deputy chairperson Harivansh, who basically wrote about a mockery of the parliament, where he wrote about that how the parliament is getting disrupted, and this is a common issue that is there. But there are certain statistics. Usually I don't go into political articles, but this is important for you to understand Indian polity. Now if you see the first Lok Sabha met for 135 days in a year, and Rajya Sabha for 93 days. But if you see that duration has come down, and in the 17th Lok Sabha it only met for 55 days in a year. Now the number of transactions has basically gone down. That shows the failure of the parliament as well. But what Manish also writes is other issues which are very important for your discussion in polity. There is something that you will read about the 10th schedule of the constitution, which basically talks about anti-defection, that you cannot jump from one party to another party. But what the anti-defection law has done is that it has made from retail, you will understand it at a later point of time, what it has done is it has changed the business of defection. People who are jumping from one party to another from retail activity. I cannot jump from one party to another, but if I can gather sufficient number of MPs or MLAs, then I can jump into the other vote. So that is something that has happened, and if you want to do a deeper dive, please read the 10th schedule of the constitution, and you will understand that if 1/3 of people are willing to topple, then it does not attract the anti-defection. Then the other thing is with respect to the power of the whip. The whip basically says that there is an office of whip, and there is someone which will guide you how to vote and on what to debate and what to say in the parliament. So basically your party whip basically guides all your action. Now suppose in my constituency the government is not doing well, I have the right to criticize, because I am representing my electors, and maybe I am in agreement with Congress for a particular issue. This happens in case of US Congress, but this does not happen in case of India because of the office of whip, because you are only allowed to vote according to your the whims and fancies of your whip, and you are not allowed to vote independently of your party's demand. Then the other thing that is going down is the the parliamentary standing committees. Now in 1993, these parliamentary standing committees was instituted to aid the legislative and the financial the remit of the Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha. But at the same point of time, only 45% of total bills are being sent there. Other bills are not being sent there and directly being passed. Then in the end, it again talks about that parliament obstructionism is something which even Arun Jaitley had said as the part of legitimate tactics, and even it was supported by Sushma Swaraj. So basically, they cannot say that we are using it. You yourself have used this. I mean, in the past. So maybe you can read this article. It's a good article for this thing. Then something that you can read is again, US envoy has recently said that there is nothing called strategic autonomy in the current times of conflict, and during the times of conflict either you are with us or against us. So this is it, this is come in the background of the fact of the relationship that India shares with Russia. Then coming to again, this is an important news for GS as well, folks. You need to understand there is something called as synthetic textiles. Now, I mean, there are man-made textiles and there are natural textiles. Now, you should be aware about as a GS student as well. What is this man-made textiles and what is this thing? The natural textile, for example cotton and cotton silk are all natural textiles. But what is man-made? For example, polyester staple fiber, polyester that is added to shirts and other things, and viscose staple fibers. These are basically the material that is used as a man-made fiber. Now the problem is that these companies, these synthetic textile makers, are basically seeking relief from quality control orders. Now what is this quality control orders? Now we have seen in the past that cheap material has been coming to India, especially not just with this but also with toys as well. So cheap industry is coming, cheap products were coming in India for creation of these cloth. And what the government of the day has done is that it has said that it is I mean all these exporters which are exporting these PSF and VSF to India, to obtain this bureau of Indian standard certification. Now you have to understand this entire concept as a story. Now how I'll tell you this as a story is that, see, in India, one of the major players is basically Aditya Birla Group, who has Grasim Industries. You might have heard about Grasim. Now what these big players have done is that they don't want these small players, Reliance and Birlas, they don't want these small players to easily import cheap products and then sell clothes at a lower cost than what they are doing. Now what they have done is, Aditya Birla Group, what they have done is they have asked the government and they lobbied the Ministry of Textile to implement CSO. So they basically said there should be a minimum quality of the product that should be there, and they curbed on the amount that these small players can have of VSF, because this is important. Now against, and because it is the sole producer of VSF in India. Now Competition Commission of India has also issued an order stating that Grasim has abused its dominant position in the VSF market by charging higher prices from its customer, denying market access to other players. So think of this as a monopoly game that is being played, that one major player to exploit everyone has basically asked other player, the government, to impose this particular quality control orders, and therefore increase its own supply. And this is partially also true with the PSF as well, but the market is more fragmented there, where you have the Reliance Industries as well, which produces 57% of the PSF, and then you have other industries as well. But the issue here again is the market share that these particular companies have. So I mean you can probably read this particular article and the issues that have been faced by these particular companies. But you should understand the difference between these two and what is the quality control orders, and please read about Bureau of Industry Indian Standards, under which ministry does it come, what are its briefs, what all other companies come under this. So read about that. Then too premature to talk about interest rate cuts, says RBI governor, because we know why is it premature, folks, without reading the article. Can you tell me why is it premature? One line. Come on guys, one line. अभी तक इतना समझ में आ जाना चाहिए था. We've been talking about this time and again. Why is it premature to talk about rate cuts? What do you think? अभी तो बात करी थी. अरे सबसे इम्पोर्टेंट चीज़ फोक्स, फूड इन्फ्लेशन कहाँ कंट्रोल में है? वी आर नॉट सस्टेनेबल. इन्फ्लेशन इज स्टिल है. इन्फ्लेशन तो कंट्रोल में है, हमारा कोर इन्फ्लेशन तो कंट्रोल में है. द प्रॉब्लम इज food inflation is still not under control. So and we have other problems as well. So read about these other problems. That potential problems are the bank exposure to credit card and receivables and NBFCs का जो risk है. All of these risks are there, but at the same point of time we already know about the food inflation and the issue that is there. So it is not sustainable. Abhi right now it's not sustainable at 4%. Then last page, folks. Maybe you can read this as well. For the first time, NATO accuses China of enabling Russian attacks on Ukraine. This particular article with respect to your Austria and India relations. Now this particular article and maybe before that you can read the heat dome. So heat dome is basically a phenomena where what you are saying is because of jet streams. Suppose I have heated a particular plate. Now suppose you warm your this thing food. What do you do to make it still hot or not make it cool, I mean so that it does not cool down early? You put a lid on it. That is how you basically keep your food warm. Similar thing happens here as well. In still summer conditions, the mass of warm air rises on the earth's surface, and then the high pressure condition in the atmosphere pushes the warm air down, not letting it rise. And because of this air gets stuck near the surface, and this becomes as a heat chamber. So this is something that has been seen in California, Southern California as well, where some parts temperature have reached 50 degrees. Now what is a heat dome? As I was telling you, lid on a pot, something like that. The warm air cannot rise, and the clouds cannot form. And because the clouds cannot form, you will not have any cooling down mechanism, because there's no water vapor there. So this is something that becomes a problem. And why heat domes are formed? Because they are tied to behavior of jet streams and area of fast moving air in higher atmosphere. So you read about what jet streams are if you have not read them about it. And because of this, you have high pressure situation systems that create heat domes. And it is also being done because of climate change. Okay. Now coming to this particular article, now this is Prime Minister Modi was the first Prime Minister after Indira Gandhi to visit the state of Austria, or the country of Austria. And it is also a neutral ground between say the west and the east, because of the kind of neutrality that it has achieved. So if you see, Vienna was under Nazi occupation during World War, and after the war it was divided into 4 sectors by US. In 1955, the 4 occupying powers signed the Austrian state treaty with the Austria government to establish Austria as an independent state. And basically it is strategically located between the capitalist Western Europe and the communist bloc. So that is why it is the best state for neutrality. And it was also in that treaty it was also bound that Austria will be neutral, because it is the kind of position that it is there in. Okay. So and why this is important? Because India also wants some kind of peace to come out of this thing, Russia-Ukraine issue, and there's no better place to basically come up with this other than Austria. So and we already know about what the Prime Minister has said with respect to this thing, and there has been talked about Nehru as well, and is how he was a diplomatic mediator, and how Austria can be a good position for this thing, your ties, your neutral ties. Then with respect to discussion of an evolution of types, basically they were talking about infrastructure, renewable energy, e-commerce, all these issues that you can obviously write on, and why Austria matters. Maybe you can read that. Then read about why location sharing can't be on bail condition. Recently what had happened was that the court had basically said that you should drop a pin on Google Maps to ensure where you are there. But basically the Supreme Court had rejected this unusual condition of the bail. And maybe for fun you can read Chasing Asteroids, why ISRO wants to venture into planetary defense. And even there was an asteroid that actually eliminated dinosaurs. And this may be for fun. Late speakers are cognitively sharper than early risers, something that I do not agree with. All right. So about our session today. Now we are going to meet on Monday. I will try to cover the newspaper of Saturday. If there is something important that needs to be done, otherwise we'll cover the Monday's newspaper, and maybe tomorrow in an online session, or next week on Friday. I will have another tech session where I will teach you certain other tech products, some certain AI products, where you can interact with that particular document. So for example, I will teach you a product whereby you can just upload that particular, suppose you have a summary of say current affairs from a particular coaching institute. You just upload that particular summary, and then if you want to ask certain questions about it, if you want to ask certain things, if you want certain clarifications, you can simply do a research on that, and you don't need to manually search that particular thing. So it helps you in that way. So I will share the first tech video. I will put it on YouTube as well. In fact, there is a tech course that I'm incorporating for the first time in the industry, where we are talking about using AI and using tech for your entire prep. So this is a new program that I'm designing right now, and it will be focused towards mains, and then from January onwards it will be focused towards prelims. So using tech for say each particular section of your, and it will be section wise. So maybe we use a week to prepare one particular topic of mains, and then we'll have another topic that we will cover, then we'll have the third topic that we'll cover. So we'll cover the GS portions, and we will incorporate tech with it, and how to enhance that. So that is the new program that we are coming up with. It might take another 15 to 20 days to conceptualize the entire thing, but it will be a game changer because people don't teach it, and people don't want to share as well at times, that how it is going to help students. So I can create a bot for you, but the issue is that will not make you independent, that will make you dependent on my bot. But suppose if I want to make you independent in your own this thing, so I want to teach you how to study using AI. So this is something that we will cover in the sessions going forward. So with this, let's wind up today's session, and I'll meet you on Monday at 5:20. See you guys. Bye bye.